And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Cat McIntosh.
Well, good evening, folks. It is yet another Monday Live here on CFN, and there is lots to talk about, lots to discuss. Obviously, this is the eve of Remembrance Day, a day that's very important to myself, CFN, and I'm sure a lot of you other CFNers. Really important, guys. I can't emphasize it enough. I know Don Cherry used to go on and on about it. I think maybe it might the torch might be passed to us to spread the message, spread the word of the importance of the poppy. And it's not just to remember those who we've lost, but it's also to remember of those who are continuing to give their sacrifice and protect us and the rest of our country, whether it be overseas, here on our own ground soil. But at the end of the day, as I said, those who sign up for this, they're a special kind of breed of people. And I can't imagine what was going through the head of an 18-year-old back in the day when, they were sent off and felt no hesitation to do so, to fight for the rights for our country. And a lot could be said for, that time and that era. But at the end of the day, they all fought for the cause, and you know what? Good won over evil. Doesn't always happen, as we read in the news, but it's nice to remember a time that it did, and we're so thankful that they did, because if they hadn't, we wouldn't be sitting here talking. Likely, who knows what we would be doing? As I said, I can't stop thinking about it. Remembrance Day means so much to me, not just because of I had family that was involved. Because, I'm not 100% sure that I did, but there were talks when I was young, discussions around the dinner table. Regardless of that, we know lots of people that have sacrificed and are still doing so, and those families who were touched by that ultimate sacrifice. So just all we have to do is wear a poppy to thank them. I mean, we should be doing a heck of a lot more, in my opinion, but to show our respect, to show our gratefulness, all it takes is a poppy. So, and there's folks that I know that have benefited from the poppy program. So don't think that, whatever donation that you give is going, sort of lost. It's going towards some really cool stories, some really cool causes that have been shared. I've seen on Facebook a couple times and YouTube. So as I said, it's a very important time of year. It's a very important day. It's a shame that it's only a day, in my opinion, but nonetheless, it is a time to reflect and be thankful for those who did make that ultimate sacrifice. Not just Canadians, but all folks around the world that just knew that what was going on was wrong and it needed to be stopped. And a lot could be said for that. A lot could be said for stepping up and doing what's right. And the thought that you possibly could have, perished by doing so. Again, I have no words, because no words can describe the gratefulness I have for what they've done, because I wouldn't have the pleasure of coming here and all the retreats that we do, as you saw with Horwood and Camp Mac. We're going to be posting some upcoming dates so that you folks know and can get signed up. But I'm really excited because both venues right now are at the halfway point of being booked. So thank you, CFN, for all that you do to continue to support what is a good cause. And that'll probably be the kind of theme that we're going to be talking about tonight, especially Jay and I. There's an interesting video that both of us talked about when we first went live, or just before we went live, that it's nice to see that we're all still on the same page. Those who want to see good want to support good. And we're going to get to that later, but lots to discuss tonight. Stephen, nice to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you along. Tony, Lloyd's in the house. Erica's here with us. Joe's here. These are diehard CFNers right here. Gotta love them. Dean, you're the best, buddy. Gary, yes, sir. It was nice to feature your young lad, the Toothy Critter Slayer. It was awesome to see. Eve's in the house. How you doing, Eve? Brad's with us as well. There's a whole host of you folks here. This is awesome to see. Yeah, hopefully you guys are dealing with the snow. For those who are in, the snow squall bands, you know who you are. And it sounds like it's going to be a rough 24 hours with all of it is coming in. Yeah. Obviously, the expletive we don't necessarily need, but that was a tough thing to see. And we made a comment in the post that we made in regards to Remembrance Day. It was sad to see someone that old that still has their wit and knew enough that perhaps he was questioning, was it worth it? And I can understand the point he's making. I do really understand the point he's making. But instead of trying to find solutions, trying to find resolve, let's just try and not make any other vet ever have to say that again. And I don't know how we do that as a whole, but that was tough to watch. That was really tough to watch. I'm glad you brought that up because it broke mine too. Absolutely. Mississauga City Junior Bassmasters in the house as well. As I said, guys, it is a time of remembrance. It's a time of reflection, and it is a time of appreciating those who are no longer with us. And I found out I was just flipping through Facebook looking for some stuff that we were going to post tonight, and then I came across this. It breaks my heart that we have to announce it because she was definitely one of my favorites at OWA. I love Chris. She was just so down to earth, and no disrespect because it is her own words. Every time that I would see her and wish her well and hope that her health got better, she would always remind me, Scotty, who knows where this is going to go, but just remember, I'm a tough old broad. And Chris, yes, you were. And as I know folks would typically say, she lost her fight with cancer. She didn't lose her fight, just cancer won. She put up a good fight, and it's a shame to say that, unfortunately, cancer removed Chris from our community, and she will be missed. She will really be missed, and my heart goes out for all of our OWA members. I know you supported her. It was always awesome to see you guys at the shows, supporting, carting her around, in the last couple of years. It will be tough not to see Chris walk through the halls or be wheeled through the halls at some of those upcoming shows in the spring. She was just a down-to-earth lady. I loved her to death, and it was unfortunate that I had to find out the way I did, but sometimes that's just how we are. We're just too busy, we're too distracted, we're too into doing whatever it is we're doing, and unfortunately we miss things like this, and it's really important. And I just want to take a moment and reflect on Chris McDougall, not only as an OWA member, angler of our community, but she was a tough old broad, and I am so honored to have known her, and unfortunately she will be forever missed. So Chris, rest in peace. Hopefully you catch a big one wherever it is you are, and you're having a blast, because we're all thinking of you and we're all missing you. So with that being said, as I said, a big shout out to all the OWA ladies who right now I know are in mourning. They love Chris, and I'm sure they are missing her just as much as I am. Again, there's lots of other things that I want to discuss too, but I will wait till we talk to Jay and Lawrence. So for right now, why don't we do the next best thing and bring on the one and only Lawrence Gunther right after this.
What is Flash Boost? Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
How we doing tonight, Lawrence?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
Right on. On the eve of Remembrance Day, is there any stories, anything that you've been a part of where it really hit home when it came to remembering Remembrance Day and having the need to continue to remember Remembrance Day?
I guess, every 2 years, a friend of mine down in the States has this program where he brings people with disabilities together for outdoor adventure. And for quite a few of these, he asked me to come down and sort of help out lead the fishing activity, right? So I got to go out and meet a lot of people who had disabilities who love fishing. And many of them were vets and who had lost limbs and had other disabilities. And, I think especially around the Iraq War and then the Afghan War, and so many people came home with injuries. And, Wounded Warriors and all these organizations sprung up, and they realized that going fishing and taking people fishing is just, we all go fishing. And as soon as that boat leaves the dock or as soon as our feet hit the water, it's like everything behind us is a million miles away. And it's such a healing opportunity just to get out of your situation and go fishing. And I mean, I fished with people who had no arms, who had no legs, and they just got so much fun out of fishing. And we had such great times. And I just think, wow, fishing really is a great equalizer, and it can be such a great healing tool. And I think about how that, we still need to always be thinking about that when it comes to people who are going through challenges and how important fishing is. I mean, yeah, it's fun, but it's so much more, right?
Amen. And, to all of those groups that are out doing some wonderful stuff for our vets, first responders, you have programs that are dedicated for folks that are first responders and are suffering from PTSD. They're getting them out on the water. We all know this. Anybody who is here at CFN listening tonight, we all know the mental fortitude that fishing provides. And, I obviously we need to do it more. I would probably stress it more so now than ever because of everything that's going on in the world today. But right now it's our vets that we're thinking of. And again, can you imagine? Think about this, Lawrence. You're 18 years old, right? And all of a sudden, you take it upon yourself. I want to fight. I got to fight for this country. And you go through training. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, other than it's war, and there's nothing good about war.
No.
You load up on the ship, takes you across. You don't know what you're about to see. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And all of a sudden, before you know it, blink of an eye, there's bullets flying by you, explosions going off, people are dying in front of you. Talk about baptism by fire. And I'm not trying to be light about this by any means, but can you freaking imagine?
They're kids. Like the majority of soldiers are kids. Like we talk about child soldiers, right, in these African countries, and the horrific, news we hear about these child soldiers. But then, look at the average age of our soldiers going overseas over the years, right? I mean, you're 18, man. I got a kid who's going to turn 18 in 3 months, a boy and a daughter that just turned 19, and they could join the army. They could go, and I said, don't do it because, you could just end it. I'm all for defending Canada, but do I want to see them go to another Afghanistan or somewhere like that and just get the shit knocked out of them and come back? No, they're kids. These are kids.
You see how protective families are, parents are nowadays. And I don't know. I sometimes question, is this something that could happen again? Could we see this kind of buy-in again? And I don't know. I have to say, I'm concerned that we will. I mean, for those who are, And those parents that are supporting those kids that are doing it, hats off to you, man. Holy smokes. You are definitely a different breed than the majority of parents I see. But at the end of the day, what a cause they fought for, and we're so thankful they did, because outside of that, you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking about
Oh
fishing.
yeah, no, like the First World War, the Second World War, these were things that were knocking on our doorstep for sure. And 9/11, that was way too close to comfort. But then, you think about, do you want to have, would you want one of your kids going to be a peacekeeper in Gaza, and get in the middle of all that, or to Sudan, and where all that horrific brutality taking place right now.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest genocides and going on right now. It's crazy what's going on there. And it's these just, we don't have a lot of wars going on in the world, but Ukraine, and there's a few, and we see them in real vivid color and sound.
Yeah.
And it's and with all the technology, and my goodness.
I know. Jeremy Sully sharing a great point. My great uncle lied about his age to be enlisted in the same battalion as my great grandfather. Went on to be a Black Devil, which, as anybody knows, is quite an honor, and not too many folks have the ability to do that. To get that exactly, Gary, 100%. This is what I'm saying. Would we see this? And I'm not here to judge. It's just, would we see this kind of buy-in now like it was back then? I don't know. I'd like to hope so, but I don't know. But anyway, needless to say, as I said, Remembrance Day is a very important day. I honestly believe that it should be a lot longer than a day. We always get into this problem when you wear poppies out of line of Remembrance Day, how it's disrespectful. So we came up with a resolve, and Stephen, I want to thank you for having that. We are running low on those, and we are going to be getting some more, but these are little pendants that you can wear all year round, that the Legions have basically given their approval on, so that it's not disrespectful for folks like us who do want to respect what they have done, what they have sacrificed, and the fact that they're no longer with us each and every day, that we're able to walk freely on this earth, in this country. So anyway, I digress, but it is definitely a topic that deserves a lot of attention. Irregardless, now we're not talking ostriches, but we are talking about another nuisance animal that I'm hoping will be dealt with a little bit differently. But anyway, irregardless of that, we're not digressing into that topic, because it's been spoken about at verbatim, almost to exhaustion, on social media and all kind of media platforms. But we have a real seal problem. What are we going to do about the seals?
Yeah. Well, this seal thing, these seals, man, these seals in like Eastern Canada, Western Canada, it's, there's a lot of unreported news and information about seals and their interactions and the role they're playing in the recovery or the demise of different wild species of fish. And it wasn't that long ago that we were, many people were campaigning against the seal hunt off the coast of Newfoundland, and that spread to Europe. And even though we never directly outlawed seal hunting, the Europeans said, no, we don't want your seals, and they're not coming onto our continent. And the value of seal pelts just plummeted to the point where no one goes out and harvests seals anymore. And they're not great to eat. They're not delicious. They're not yummy. Just flipper pie and things like that. People will eat it, but it's not, you got to develop a taste for that. And apparently it's not that easy to do. But so in terms of eating them for food or harvesting them for their furs, there's no market for their furs, and no one's really keen on going, lining up for seal tags to go seal hunting during seal season and bringing those home like they do deer and moose. So their populations are bouncing back, and we took the call off back in the I think the 70s or 80s, we took the call off the seal. So we used to hand out people, $5 or $3 for every seal head they brought in or whatever. That's gone. And then we made it, illegal, I think, to hunt seals in certain parts of the world. Yeah, there's that Mammal Protection Act, right? There's a mammal, and Canada signed it. We have a law saying you can't hunt these mammals off the coast of Canada, along the coast of Canada, unless you're an Indigenous person and you're hunting for your food. And so they're protected. They're protected, and no one wants them to in the first place. Really, they're not considered, prime food, and so their populations are definitely recovering. And our fish, our love of fish, is definitely getting a beating as a result.
So let me ask this question: are we talking about seals as a nuisance or a problem because of the result of what's going on with the fishery? Is that why we're discussing it? Because at the end of the day, I tend to believe that if all was good with the fishery out there, it wouldn't be a discussion. It would be talked about like a nuisance, like mosquitoes are a nuisance. But to me, with the fishery I don't want to say it's critical. It's very fragile out there. We're trying to keep pods of orcas alive, so we want to make sure that everybody has enough food. But it has been identified, and some would argue that we have an overpopulation of seals. We've certainly seen on the East Coast that their numbers have also increased quite dramatically, and the inshore fishermen are taking it on the chin as a result. But you don't hear about that as much, and I think that might be because the fishery is doing well out there. Obviously cod stocks are back. We're starting to see striped bass come up into areas that have never been before, the Atlantics and all this. At the end of the day, the East Coast fishery seems to be somewhat intact, whereas on the West Coast, we're talking about it because the fishery might not be as good as it once was. Would that be fair to say?
Well, it might have been fair to say 2 days ago, but in the last 48 hours, there was a new scientific report that came out about the seals on the East Coast. Oh. And this report shows, after examining stomach content, that seals are in fact consuming 20 times more cod than are being caught by commercial fishers. 20 times more cod are being caught by seals than they are by commercial fishers. That's a number. Just that ratio, just that alone has really given fuel to the fishing union and the fishing associations and the processors and the commercial fishers on the East Coast saying, see, there's your evidence right there. Seals are taking down the cod, and the recovery of cod is being prevented, and our commercial fishery is being put at risk. And they are like in glee because they have evidence now backing up what they've been saying for, like many of them say, for generations.
Interesting. So there we go though. As a recreational angler, let me, without being too brash, because I don't want to come across brash, as a recreational angler, why would I care?
Yeah, well, fishing is fishing, and for when you have when they canceled the cod fishery in 1992, people pivoted. People who fish for a living, people who love fishing, people who needed to make a living, and much of it had to do with fishing, pivoted to catching crab. Like all of a sudden, crab became popular as a consumable. And no one had really paid any attention to catching crab. I mean, everyone was catching lobster, but the lobster had already been that was filled. Like there was no more room for more lobster licenses to be handed out. The coastlines were already peckered with lobster pods, and there wasn't really much opportunity to expand that fishery. But the crab fishery was wide open. So all these cod fishers, started going out, for 24, 36, 48 hours with their traps and coming back with $10,000 worth of crab on their boat. I'm talking 30 years ago. They were coming back with $10,000 worth of crab on their boat after 36 hours of fishing, and they were pretty happy guys. Well, those times are getting thinner and thinner, right? The crab population is not as strong as it was. It's reducing to the point where catches are being limited and dropping off. And so the cod fishery is the new thing. It's the new thing again. And that's the only real thing. It's the only real thing on the East Coast that's going to keep those communities together. Without cod, and there's going to be a lot of poverty and a lot of coastal communities that are just not going to survive. People are not going to have money, and if you can't work, you're not going fishing and hunting for either, right? Then you're going to have, unless you're just going for food, but forget about a recreational fishing and stuff. But and just so you know, here's some more data. The seal population on the East Coast, they have estimated something around 5 million seals.
Jeez.
But it's not where it was. Like it's been recovering steadily for 30 years, the seal population, since they made culling seals illegal. But it's not where it was. And where the seal population used to be in relation to where the cod population used to be, they were both, like you suggested, Scotty, you had a strong cod population and you had a strong seal population.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can that be, you think? How can you have lots of cod and have lots of seals? It's certainly the seals are going to win out at some point. But then you look at you think about it. How many seal pups are being born by one female seal in a year? They have their pups on the ice, and then the ice melts and the seals pups come off the ice and have to fend for themselves. So they're having maybe one or two a year. How many when a cod lays its eggs,
Mm-hmm.
and they fertilize, how many baby cod come out of that one female cod? Not more than two.
Yeah.
More than two, right?
No,
So it wasn't a problem. Like the population of cod, was not being hampered by the population of seals. There was other things, keeping the seal population down, like great white sharks and competition for, coastal property, coastal, weiring grounds and so on. So there was things that seals had going against them, but they could never repopulate as quickly as cod could. So why we had the call is because we were getting better and better at fishing cod, and the cod numbers were coming down, and we didn't want to share them with seals anymore. So the government said, okay, reduce the number of seals, and then we'll have more cod to be caught by commercial fishers. So that's why we had the call.
Mm-hmm.
And then the seal population was at risk. And they said, okay, you really got to lay off the seals now. And most of the fishing was now further offshore anyway. So their seals don't go that far out to get the cod when they're that far out. So it wasn't so much of a big deal. And we just kept hammering away at the cod. And then the cod population tipped into the, endangered zone, and we stopped cod fishing. Now they're coming back. The seals are growing back. The great whites are just starting to wake up to the fact that they're seals, so they're coming for the seals. And but like I said, the cod population has not been restored completely the way it was, and the seal population has not yet come back to where it was. But it's there's no money to be made in harvesting seals, but there is money to be made in harvesting cod, and that's the only game out there right now. And the fishers, the commercial fishers, they don't want to share it. They don't want to share it with the seals.
And some would suggest, well, you know what? Why don't you just try a different job? Why don't or pastime? Why don't you just learn some skills? Mm-hmm. Why do you have to be a commercial fisherman? Well, to those people who say that, at the end of the day, when it's all and I mean, we're at an age right now where, can you imagine all of a sudden jumping on a shovel or becoming a typewriter instructor, or someone that does nails in a park? Like, can you imagine having to learn that at our age to move on and feed your family and pay your bills? I get upset when I hear that sometimes, because some of these commercial fish, this is all they know. Their grandfathers taught them how to do this. Generations before them taught them how to do this. And again, there's the argument, well, just because you've been doing it for years doesn't necessarily mean it's right, and it's something that is sustainable. At the end of the day, it wasn't, and we've lost a lot of commercial anglers along the way. When the lobster was at its height, how many lobster boats would leave a typical harbor each day? When it was lobster season, we don't see that anymore. There's not that many boats, so
Well, there's still a fair bit. There's still a fair bit, but the lobster population is doing pretty good off the east coast of Canada. But they look down in the Maine, just drop down a little bit along the east coast of the U.S., and the lobster population there is at risk. And they're looking now. They have to dial back the lobster fishery because the population is shrinking, and it's not because of overfishing. It's because the ocean is warming, and the food that lobster need is no longer there in the amount that it used to be. And now we also know that the scientists say that the cod recovery has been so slow because the food that cod normally eat is not in the abundance it used to be. And there's these little fish called capelin, and they're small little fish, maybe as big as your finger. That's the way I used to see them anyways when I had my cabin out there in the 90s. And this cod fisherman, he used to catch them with a net, and he would just lie them out on a picnic table and let the sun dry them for 3 or 4 days, and then he would just eat them like French fries because they were just so packed full of oil. They were it was just an omega-3 stick, super good for you, super healthy, and nothing wrong in terms of, there was no toxins in it, and he just ate them like French fries. So, just pick them up and chop them back. The whole thing, heads, tails, everything.
Well, and we used to do the same thing with smelt here in freshwater. Same idea, and I used to enjoy that. And of course, I was a kid at the time, so I didn't really know that we were having an effect on the overall population at that time. You didn't know any better. You just did what everybody else was doing. And now that we've spent some time with you and Jay and Jim, we've learned better. We now know better, and it's everything in moderation is a good thing. But
we're not fertilizing our gardens with smelt anymore.
Well, this is it, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
But what the capelin population is going down, and no one knows why, but it is going down, and they think it's a product of warming oceans, and the food source they're looking for is they're being out competed for it, the zooplankton and phytoplankton. I'm not a scientist when it comes to that stuff. Maybe, Jason can maybe speak to that a little bit, but I'm sure maybe this is out of his wheelhouse too. This is, little fish on the east coast of Canada in the ocean. But if anyone has some information on that, but that's what the scientists are saying, is that the real threat to cod off Canada's east coast is not the seals. It's the capelin. And if they don't have enough to eat, they're not going to grow in numbers. And they're not growing in numbers as quickly as they should be. And we've been scratching our head about that for like 15 years now. And it turns out they're just not getting the capelin. And the capelin numbers are going down. And that's holding them back from that population from really taking back off. It's been 30 years. No one's fished cod seriously. And their numbers just slowly, ever so slowly picked up. But enough to support a small fishery. But then you layer on top of that the seals coming at them, 5 million seals, and there's a lot of people who have, issues. And look, and don't let people say it's the commercial fishing, and it's how we do commercial fishing, because we just have to look south of the U.S. and they've changed their rules, they've changed the way they do it, and I've talked about this again about catch share. And how every commercial fisher now on the east coast, along the coast of the United States, they get a share. They don't get a number that they have to reach. They get a share of the harvest, and they can go at it whenever they feel like it. And if they want their share to grow, they fish less and let the population get larger, and then their share represents a bigger chunk of fish. Mm-hmm. And they're much happier. The commercial fishers in the United States are doing way better than they ever have. And the populations of fish have been growing so much that they are now catching more fish than they can sell in the United States. They are catching more fish than they can sell. Their populations are doing so well. So we can do that too. We can do that here as well. So it's not commercial fishing is bad commercial fishing. No. We're dealing with other things. We're dealing with climate change, global warming, oceans warming, seals that are recovering and looking for food from an ever shrinking food base in our ocean.
Yeah, it's so true, and again, it's all a delicate balance. There was an article that was shared, and to be honest with you, I've been kind of waiting for something like this to be posted. And it was posted by a gentleman by the name of Matt Maddock. Not really sure. Obviously, he resides in Michigan, but he makes a claim that another scam: Michigan commercial fishers can't catch walleye, but Canadians catch 14 million pounds of it and sell it back to us at $8 a pound. He goes on to say that for the amount of stocking that we do and this, that, and everything else, how is it that we're allowed to still commercial fish and yet they have limits or they have restrictions?
Oh, yeah, they talking Great Lakes, Lake Erie?
I would imagine it's Lake Michigan that they're talking about. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know there was much of a walleye fishery on Lake Michigan.
I didn't either. But to that point, and again, not to talk about this article directly.
Yeah.
But that argument can be said. Like you see the level of stocking that goes on the American side, right, wrong, or indifferent. There's a lot of fish that are added to our fisheries because of our Americans, and there's a lot of money that's wrapped up in that. I've always been sort of hesitant to talk about it on Lake Erie when it comes to commercial fishing because there is, in my opinion, an imbalance. Now, a lot of those fish are caught by Canadian commercial anglers and then sold back, as said here, at $8 a pound. It's certainly not what they're paying for it in the store. So somebody's making money, I'll tell you. But at the end of the day, for the amount of effort and money that is put into the fishery from a U.S. standpoint, they do have a bit of an argument. In my opinion, they do have a bit of an argument.
Well, look, maybe so. Maybe Ontario's been resting, and taking a bit of a hands-off approach on that for too long. And I have some news on that I'll share with you in a minute. But remember, every spring, when the scientists sit down and submit their reports on the stock availability and the stock status of the perch and the white bass and the walleye on Lake Erie, they then divide up an international body of policymakers. They decide, okay, each region around the shore of the Lake Erie gets so much quota based on the commercial fishing history and activity, and vast majority of the quota of walleye being caught on Lake Erie are being caught by U.S. commercial ships. It's not, and perch too.
Yeah.
So we get a bit of the quota, but I don't know if we get a quarter. I think we might get just a little under a quarter of the quota in Canada. And yeah, maybe we haven't been put enough into it. Look, we haven't spent a freaking dime on processing walleye, on providing docks and slips and launches and support infrastructure for commercial fishing boats. We haven't spent anything since the 1970s. And Doug Ford,
far back?
Yeah. Everything's totally deteriorated. Everything's totally deteriorated and totally out of step with what we're doing now. Doug Ford just announced $10 million to rebuild some of the infrastructure on the Ontario side of Lake Erie for commercial and recreational anglers, so that they have places to put their boats, places to process their catch, places to fix their nets, places to keep their ice, all of that stuff, right? Places to process fish. It's badly needed. And thank goodness we're waking up to the fact that we've got this huge bounty of fish out there and we've got a stake in that pie, but we also need to, support the fishing community, these coastal communities, so that they can actually make use of it, right? And prosper from it, and not just do it half-ass with busted technology and busted infrastructure. So you know what, we're waking up to the value of this, and it's super important. It's jobs. Absolutely, it's jobs.
It's jobs. Yep, absolutely. And I will also say too, we might want to consider doing this sooner than later, because as I said, with the number of walleye out there, and just like the same problem that the cod are having out east with the capelin, the walleye are having the same problem with perch out in Lake Erie. So, it's no different. Mother Nature works in mysterious ways, but at the end of the day, there's always a common denominator. And if there's not a lot of perch, cycles will tell you usually the walleye are up in population. But then something has to be done to bring down that population so that there's a balance and that the perch can get back to, doing what they do best. And so you have that balance. And right now, I would almost say that there's an imbalance to the number of walleye and perch in Lake Erie. So to your point, hopefully we get doing and whatever it is sooner than later, because at the end of the day, there might not be many perch left if we don't.
Well, the other part of that Doug Ford announcement is that is also supporting the science, right?
Yes,
and there's a webinar coming up, I think, in 2 weeks from the Ministry of Natural Resources, and they're going to explain how they look at fish larvae as a way of forecasting the health of fish populations just by looking at the larvae, the baby fish, and how they do it, and that's good. That's your indicator of what's coming. And we have to understand that much better if we're going to stay on top of things and not react, right? But to be progressive and proactive and and make sure our little tweaks and changes are done at the right time, not at the last minute or too late.
Amen.
It's pretty cool. There's some good news coming out of the Great Lakes for fishing and fisheries, commercial, recreational. We are riding a pretty good wave right now, I think. And man, oh man, but who's talking about it, right? When do you see it in the news? When are the celebrations going to start taking place about what's going on? And when are people going to stop talking about how the Great Lakes are always just a cesspool of chemicals and it's nastiness, and we hear that all the time, right, from the environmental groups, that the lakes are just full of horrific chemicals and pollution and sewage and blue-green algae and on and on and on and on. And yeah, there's such truth to it for sure, but they're also full of fish. They're also full of fish, and these are not Chernobyl fish, right? These are not glow-in-the-dark fish.
Yeah,
these are fish that are still safe to eat. So,
and at the end of the day, you still have that choice. Whether you still love fishing and just don't like to eat fish, there's at least the pastime, the recreational value that fishing provides is enough for some people. Some people, I know lots of anglers that don't even like to eat fish.
That's a lot of people who don't like to eat fish.
Right? There's a lot of people out there that love the fish that don't like to eat it. Yeah. I'm actually surprised sometimes when I hear that. But at the end of the day, fishing is our pastime. It is something that our forefathers fought for. Yeah. And you and I, Lawrence, will continue to talk about it each and every time we get the opportunity to do so. Yeah. In the meantime, I want to wish you a great week. Happy Remembrance Day. And we get the luxury of talking to you again next Monday, sir.
You got it, buddy.
Right on, dude. You take care of yourself.
Thanks,
Stay classy, eh?
Yeah, man. You too, buddy. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's great.
I will certainly try. With good people like you around, it's inevitable.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Jay, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you doing?
Fantastic. We have a fair bit to talk about tonight, and I'm happy about that. First and foremost, we discussed it a little bit with Lawrence last week in regards to this announcement that was made about Ontario boosting recreational commercial fishing along Lake Erie. Lawrence touched on it a little bit just a minute ago. Are there any positive takeaways or highlights that you'd like to mention in regards to this announcement?
Well, this is big news for me locally here. Port Dover is one of the major hubs of commercial fishing on Lake Erie, and there's a lot of hype locally that this is happening. So $10 million is going to go a long way, and the local council is happy. I know the local fishers are happy. So this is big news. And I was listening to you and Lawrence talk. I think that it's there can be some controversy around commercial fishing on Lake Erie, but let's face it, it's a major industry for a lot of these small towns.
And I hope, for the sake of some of these longtime commercial anglers and production facilities, processing facilities, that it continues. Like I would never be one to lay claim and say we got to get rid of commercial fishing. I think we have to do it ethically. I think we have to, as Lawrence said, we have to listen to the science. And I'm really, I was taken back when I heard Premier Ford talk about that was the most important aspect. We're listening to the science. It's not often you hear politicians talk like that, and certainly refreshing from where I was sitting. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's collecting all this science. So it's nice to have someone backing the work that you're doing.
I think it's good news. I really do. I think that, I don't know, we have put, I say we, like society has put a lot of money and investment into the commercial fishing. You know, and not just commercial fishing, but I was up and I had a really cool trip. I wasn't on last week. A couple weeks ago, I was up at White Lake Fish Hatchery.
Cool.
Now, I was up there because of a project that we're working on with endangered mussels, believe it or not. So White Lake is home to a very cool program where we've been studying, I say the collective, we have been studying endangered mussels, and they are able to raise mussels there. And they've been doing that for research. And there's a couple populations of endangered species of mussels that they've raised there in these buckets. I'll send you pictures, dude. It's honestly amazing. And I was talking to Chris Wilson, who's the director of White Lake. He was at the conference I was at last week, a mussel research conference. And we were talking about how cool it was they could raise these mussels. And while I was there, I got a tour of the hatchery, Scotty. And Angela was one of the staffers and walked Kelly, who works with me at DFO, walked us through the hatchery and got to see all the fish they're raising, the lake trout, the walleye, the ciscos, and the work that goes into running these systems. And while we were there, they have this massive new, you have to picture this, massive new garage being built. Their equipment has been stored for decades outside. It's a greatly outdated place, as with most hatcheries. Their infrastructure is horribly outdated. And they're building this giant garage that they can keep their hatchery trucks in so that they don't have to, you can imagine if their trucks aren't stored properly, the hoses break down from UV, all these things happen. Now these things can be stored long-term. This major reinvestment in fish hatcheries, this major reinvestment in commercial fishing. And I think that it's just great to see the province put money back into our fisheries. That's what it is. Yeah, it's honestly awesome. Cool to see. I enjoyed my visit there. It was great. Yeah, really did.
To a certain degree, and again, I'm not trying to judge, but in a lot of cases, it was always, in terms of what I saw, is do we have to put money into fishery? Like, I hate to be dramatic about it, but what is it that we want now? Like, you guys want you want to redo a pen? You want to upgrade your hatchery? Like, do we really need this money to go in? That was sort of the theme, if you will, over the years that I experienced, especially in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, that, you know what, we have better places to put our money. It's nice to see that we're coming back around and we're starting to invest in what we love. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. And we could talk about reinvestment in fish hatcheries, and that goes right back to the anglers.
Yes.
Like that's why the hatcheries exist. Like, and we have hatcheries now. There is some hatcheries like Codrington and at White Lake where they're doing research in those hatcheries, but that research also benefits us too. So they're raising fish for us to catch. They're also conducting research to make our fisheries better. So there's sort of that sort of sport fishing side of it, but also that research side, but it all comes together. And seeing that reinvestment in these hatcheries to improve their facilities, that's huge. And I may not always agree with what goes on with our government. That's all levels, but boy, to see that happening is great. And it made me just feel great as an angler to see all that going on.
Ah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Tony's asking, what is this White Lake? Probably not the White Lake past White River. It's Sharbet Lake, isn't it? White Lake Hatcheries.
Yeah, it's actually, so it's called the White Lake Fish Culture Station. It's on Highway 7. It's just before Sharbet Lake. So if you're driving from Peterborough, it's hilarious. I've driven past there. I don't know. So Heather's folks, her family is a lot of them from Ottawa, and so I've driven past the White Lake Fish Culture Station. If you drive past, Sharbet Lake is the next town. It's like 5 minutes away. And I've driven past that White Lake Fish Culture Station probably 30 times in my life, never stopped in to see it, nor had a reason. I don't think we should just show up unannounced, right? It's not like it's a tourist stop. But being able to go there, and even Scotty, you'll appreciate this. Like we had to dissect some of the mussels that were there for some of the research we were doing. Dude, they had not just the facilities there, like the tanks and the troughs, they had microscopes. Like we could just jump in their lab and work on stuff there, and hearing about some of the great work that's been done there over the years, because a lot of the people that work there have been there a long time. Even some of you might know Pam. She's an avid angler. Her and her husband fish a lot of tournaments in the east side of Ontario. She works there. I walked in the office and there's Pam, and she didn't expect to see me, nor did I expect to see her there. And she was on her way out to deliver some fish. I just felt sometimes you just feel at home in some of these places that you go to. And I really felt at home when I walked in there with everyone there. And then to see Chris Wilson, the director, at the conference last week and continue those conversations. In fact, the one night after the conference, we all got together for a few beers and to chat with Chris about the fish hatchery and the programs going on there. I think it's just, yeah, exactly. It's a great, we call that enabling, George, great enabling for that to happen. And actually a good friend of mine is now one of the directors of fish culture for Ontario. And I know that he really prides himself on providing great fishing for Ontario anglers. It's fantastic. I loved it. I love that visit.
Awesome.
So
it's awesome to hear that biologists and anybody that's working in a hatchery and is being paid by the government to do so is an angler first. I think that is very crucial to the success of our fisheries. Obviously we hear it from George, we hear it from you and the entire Barnucz family. So the buy-in is there. And I tell you, the appeal from anglers who aren't necessarily involved or have never helped out or done anything, we appreciate that you guys do. So again, I want to share this. This is really cool. I had no idea, and it's going to be Trout Tuesday tomorrow, so I thought it was apropos to share this, but I absolutely had no idea the science behind the differences in rainbow trout.
Good morning. We wanted to show you a couple of our rainbow trout here. So all three of these fish are rainbows, but they're all very different. We've had a lot of questions about these blues. They're a very unique rainbow trout, but they are a rainbow trout. The reason they end up blue is trout have two different chromophore cells, or basically their pigmentation. So a regular trout has the gold and the blue chromophore cells, so together you get a nice shade of green, like this beautiful fish here. Well, there's a genetic anomaly where they'll be deficient in one or the other. The technical term, they'd be leucistic. It's similar to an albino. So the blues are deficient in the gold pigmentation, and the gold are deficient in the blue big pigmentations. So you get these beautiful colors, and obviously we bred them and exploited that way to make some fun and unique rainbows for your fishing pond. Now don't worry, these fish aren't dead. I got a drug that knocks these fish out so we can handle them and spawn them. So there it is, blue rainbows, gold rainbows, and a good old-fashioned regular rainbow. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for sharing that. He does quite a few other videos as well that we'll discuss throughout the course of the rest of the year. So informative. Again, I obviously knew it had something to do with some kind of chromosome and a pigment, but the way he explained it, bang on.
Yeah, I thought that was great. It's funny, the golden trout in the U.S., a lot of the trout fisheries around the Great Lakes, but especially in the Midwest, when you have a lot of these trout fisheries that are tributaries of the Missouri and tributaries of the Ohio, where there's enough cool water to sustain trout, but not to raise trout. These are put and take fisheries, and golden trout are often stocked and quite prized among trout anglers. And I've never caught a golden trout, but I've seen them caught. And even in Ontario, those pigmentations still show up from time to time in the fish that we have. Remember, all rainbow trout, they're not native to our side of North America, right? They are native to the Rockies and the west slope of the Rockies, to be precise. So they're Pacific drainage fish. But through breeding, some of these color morphs show up, and they're quite prized among anglers. You know, I guess we're lucky that we get to fish for a lot of naturally reproduced, you know, steelhead here in Ontario, and we can debate about whether they're actually steelhead or not. That's another show altogether. But these golden trout and blue trout show up in some of these fisheries, and a lot of anglers prize them. They're pretty cool, to be honest.
Amen. No, truly something. I thought I knew, but until he mentioned it the way he did and explained it the way he did, then I became, oh, well, I didn't know all of the details. So again, we're going to be sharing some of Henry's stuff throughout the rest of the year, just because he goes into great detail. And if you're a hatchery junkie like me and love seeing this aspect of how our fisheries exist and are maintained, we're going to be doing a little bit more of that via CFN and CFN Live. Jay, did you want to talk a little bit about Remembrance, or is there something else that you wanted to talk about before we move on?
You know what? We could talk about that, but yeah, we should talk about, geez, there's a lot been going on over the past week. We have, well, let's talk about this first. I'm going to share, we'll talk about, we'll talk about that.
What is the significance of this, Jay? For those who don't know, what is the significance of this?
So I haven't been following this too closely because it just screams negativity to me, but this is a picture that was taken by an angler, and that piece of kayak that's in the back of this boat, allegedly, and we'll use the term allegedly, this angler has been using a boat to fish in kayak tournaments. So now how this happens in kayak tournaments, anglers can launch wherever they want, and you take photos of your fish caught in the kayak and enter them into the tournament. And so this angler allegedly is using this chunk of a kayak, placing it in their boat, and has been taking pictures of smallmouth, just like in that photo, on this piece of kayak and entering them into kayak tournaments. So in a kayak tournament, you don't have to, like in a bass tournament, you have to show your boat is typically inspected. You all launch at the same location. Your boat's checked for the live wells, make sure there's no fish present. Your safety gear's checked, all those kinds of things. In a kayak tournament, that doesn't happen. It's assumed that you have all those things. And in fact, it's policed by other kayak anglers on the water. So if I see someone out without their navigation lights on at a certain time of day, I can turn them in. If an angler is fishing in out of bounds areas, I can turn them in. If an angler is, in fact, you're expected to. If you don't report a violation, you are as guilty as the person involved. That's typical of all tournaments. If an angler is fishing in an out of bounds area, I'm obligated to report that. So in this case, this angler, and that boat, from what I understand, is rigged up to be a river boat. So this angler is fishing in, I believe that boat actually has a jet motor on it. Yeah. And so they're angling in the smallmouth rivers in the east, like in the Susquehanna, in similar rivers. And so this angler's been winning money in kayak tournaments, posing as a kayak angler. Can you believe this? Like, I find it comical because you'll hear a lot of the boat anglers make fun of the kayak anglers, and yet hear someone in a boat posing as a kayak angler. It boggles my mind. And we don't need any negative press in the fishing world. Good Lord, there's enough of it going on. But this whole story just has me just shaking my head, just literally shaking my head.
It was the reaction I had. Like and in one of the comments, it was suggested that you can't rely on the honor system anymore.
No.
And isn't that crappy that we're down that rabbit hole, that we can't use that as part of the rules anymore? Like,
yeah, it just blows my mind, man. I don't even know what to say. Well, we talked before the show. There's been a few notable kayak anglers that have spoken out about this. There'll be a podcast coming up on this. I know a couple to discuss this, but at the same time, God, I don't want to give this guy any press. Like,
no.
and a lot of anglers out there are using it as clickbait to get likes and follows on their social feeds. And that's happened with every controversy we can think of out there, whether it's weights in the fish, they got weights in the fish, or whatever stories come out, forward facing sonar, barrow trauma. Oh my God, people are just hopping on these bandwagons. And I'm sure that this angler a judge will decide what has been happening, but never mind that, the public court will deal with that individual. Amen. Right? Yeah, that's how I see it. So,
and his name is everywhere. So to your point, I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to mention it.
It's okay.
It's all over the place. So by all means, reach out and go get what information you need. But it's just important that we bring it up, not only as an information opportunity to let folks know that, you've been caught. So if there's anybody else that's thinking about doing something like this, or has thought, could this ever be done? Yes, it can, or allegedly it can. And don't think about it, because it's only going to ruin you from a public's perspective.
Well, I'm going to share a picture that we should talk about briefly. And I didn't follow it too closely on the weekend, but I was going through, and I put a link in the chat. So the Winnipeg ice fishing show was this past weekend. Can you believe it? Can you believe it, man? The Winnipeg ice fishing show. I saw some videos of our friend Cameron Tate. He was doing some filleting competitions.
Yep.
Some great images from the guys at Rapala, Scott Holmes and Normark and those guys, and Peter C2 was out there doing some booth work. Ice fishing's upon us. And the weather this morning and the black ice on the roads here this morning suggested that I said to Heather as we were driving to work this morning at 5:30, I'm like, feels like I'm driving to Lake Simcoe this morning, not driving to Burlington for work. It had that feel to it. Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy, man.
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly how I felt. I'm out shoveling the driveway yesterday, and I'm thinking it's still heavy. It's still wet. No, this isn't winter. And then you wake up this morning and it's -5. It's not wet snow anymore. It's this big chunk of ice, and you hear the crackling of the tires. You're so right. It's exactly what it felt like to me. I'm like, where am I going ice fishing? And we're not there yet, but we're getting there. There's no doubt about it. Well, I don't know too many places that are ice fishing right now. Do you, Jay?
No, so I'm gonna guess some in the West have, like in the northern prairies or the mid latitudes of the prairies. They've had enough cold. I'm sure there's some folks out there chipping away on some first ice, but it's definitely like early ice for anywhere, right? So I'm gonna share another one for you.
Oh yes.
50 years today, man. 50 years today. This is, and I always remember this on Remembrance Day because November 10th is the remembrance of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And there's literally been thousands of ships lost in the Great Lakes. This one always hits home, mostly because of Gord's song, which is a great song. I do believe that but 50 years today was when this ship went down. And I actually watched a couple documentaries about it yesterday. I know it's a sad story. 29 souls lost their lives. What's cool about this too, though, is that because it's considered a gravesite, no one's allowed to go there. Like, there's been some work done there professionally to figure out what happened, but it's really a protected place. The only thing that they've done is they retrieved the bell from the ship many years ago when it's on display in Michigan. And then I believe they replaced the bell with another bell just to kind of keep the site intact. But yeah, just a very, it's a sad story, but we keep talking about the lakes and the Great Lakes and our fishing. And I always think about, about this story about the Edmund Fitzgerald and the unsinkable ship. And even Lake Superior took one of these monsters down. It's an incredible story. And it reminds us about how dangerous it is out there. Right. So
it is, and we're unfortunately seeing, the beginnings of what Mother Nature can do with these Great Lakes when it comes to the snow squalls, and they are firing up, as we've seen. If you're someone like me who likes to watch the radar, just head over to Lake Huron and see what's coming off towards the London area right now. Even places north of here in Brampton, we're starting to see it coming off Georgian Bay. Lakes, as I would say, across the board on average are up. And if you're someone that follows weather prognostication and forecasting like I do, you will understand that right now we are quite possibly on the cusp of what could be a very snowy winter, not just because of the snow squalls. That's definitely going to amplify in the Great Lakes region, but just what's happening out in the Pacific. La Nina is dying, and we are getting sort of a stall in the Pacific currents. And what that does is it lowers the temperature of the Pacific, and it allows a lot more colder air to filter down from the north, and it creates just a river for these Alberta clippers to keep passing by. So they're anticipating an awful lot of snow in the Great Lakes area and some other areas in Canada. But definitely it's interesting to see how powerful Mother Nature can be around the Great Lakes.
Yeah, the long range forecast it's pretty much after today and tomorrow it creeps back up to seasonal again around that sort of 7-8 degrees. And we shouldn't see too many, like in Southern Ontario, we shouldn't see too many nights below zero for a while. It'll be close to zero, but not like we've seen last night and tomorrow. So we shouldn't see a lot of lake effect snow, but we need those temperatures to start to stabilize those lakes, because those lakes are so warm right now that as much as I want them to freeze over selfishly to go ice fishing, but man, just to stop the snow machine, because I feel bad for these folks. They literally get trapped where they are, and it's dangerous, and all like lives are lost because of people don't want to drive. So you know what? I just hope that we can get these sort of seasonal or slightly below seasonal temps to get those lake temperatures down to where they should be, because we've been riding high on lake temperatures for a while, and until they cool down and until the lakes lock up, we won't see an end to the lake effect snow. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Scotty, now that we've had some weather, boy, the temperatures are dropping fast now, like the water temperatures. I was talking with a buddy on the Grand River. He was doing some late season largemouth fishing on the weekend, and like the water temperature was in the high 40s. Like that's a major shift, dude. Even around here, like, man, all the we put all the other stuff away, man. Like it's all getting packed up. In fact, there's some shit outside that's in the snow that I'm a little grumpy about that I should have put it away sooner. But I'll deal with that on the weekend. But yeah, it's we're getting into steelheading mode and ice fishing stuff now. It's like literally that time. It's a good time to get focused on that, because it's going to be here before you know it.
And for you, like I think of you, I think of Christian, who was out there. It's this time of year where you have to be a dedicated angler to still be out pursuing your passion. It's not great weather. The wind kicks up. It's cold. You're dealing with the elements, but it can be the most rewarding. And for someone like you who just relishes in this kind of weather and this season, for some of us who are in transition, I can see that you get excited about, the steelhead season and the potential of ice, first ice and all that. So I love it. I love seeing that, because not all of us are weather fishermen. You know what I love it when the weather goes crappy, man. Yeah. Like I really do. Like it's kind of a sadness in a way, because you got, as long as you're dressed for it and prepared for it, so in the fall when it comes to steelheading, I don't like it when it's really nice in the fall, because it keeps people coming out. Yeah. I think I enjoy the solitude of it, getting back in the bush, and the steelheading
that I do a lot of, and Trevor does a lot of. It's a lot like deer hunting. We're often in these remote places by ourselves or with maybe one or two other guys, and we're hunting these fish down. Like we're walking miles and covering a lot of water. It's very similar to hunting them as opposed to fishing for them. You know what I mean? And you know, a lot of steelheaders, you know, you hear stories about, and it's great steelheading, man. The Saugene's great steelheading, the Maitland's great steelheading. But a lot of times, some of the community holes, boy, you have to go at stupid o'clock or the night before to get a spot and you're standing in the same spot for hours just before you can fish. And that's not my style. I never really liked that. And I'd rather take my chances being on my own somewhere. But what's nice is when you get these cold temperatures, it only fair weather anglers go home. You got it to yourself as long as you're prepared for it. So yeah, we spent time getting rid of we're getting all the stuff out, like the Gore-Tex gloves and the merino wool layers and the merino wool socks. And in fact, a lot of the stuff I wear steelheading, I also wear ice fishing. So it's just a whole switch over of wardrobe. So George, I'm telling you, George, in the wilderness of Southern Ontario, I can take you places where you won't see another person all day, but you better. The one thing I tell people, make sure you pack water, because I'm walking you. I will walk you like a dog, and you will be tired. You will remember the day I take you steelheading. Whether we catch them or not, we are covering ground. That is for sure. And you will be tired. Absolutely.
That's awesome to hear. Before we go on to our last topic that we'll probably spend a little bit of time on, and we'll share the video that it basically enlightens us and advises us of how we should be acting. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we move on?
No, man, that's good. That was all my sort of big hits for the week when I was thinking today about things that are going on in the fishing world. So
with this being said, and I saw this video, and Jay, before we went live, mentioned, you know, there's a guy down in the States that there's a video that he made, and I knew exactly who he was talking about. I knew exactly the video, because at the end of the day, this literally is probably the best advice I have heard lately from any angler. It doesn't matter what his background is, how many championships he's won, how many checks he's cashed. At the end of the day, we need to listen to this gentleman, because he has an incredible message for everyone.
I'm sure y'all have seen today the news of the kayak angler caught cheating, and this video is not explaining what happened. None of that. There's enough videos going around. There's enough that are going to continue to go around. I'll leave that to those folks to explain what happened. I don't need to be giving that person any more attention than they're already getting. The point of this was I had to get this out there because it's on my brain. It's been a rough 2025 for the fishing community in regards to people with no integrity, disrespecting the sport, disrespecting other anglers, disrespecting the fish, which is why we're all here in the first place. Tournaments or not, social media or not, we're all here because we love to fish. So the point of this video I wanted to make was, while all of this negativity, the cheating stuff gets the clicks, I strongly urge you guys to go out and support the 99.999% of anglers that actually have integrity, that are doing positive things, that are doing things the right way. For every negative video you see, go support 5 different anglers, 5 different media groups, 5 different causes in fishing that are positive. Because anything negative in this industry does absolutely nothing. But supporting something positive in this industry does something. There are so many incredible people in this industry, so many anglers doing things the right way, whether they're in competition or not. So if you're somebody that's doing it the right way, you know who you are. Keep it up. Do not let this stop you. That'll be all.
Great message.
Bailey couldn't have said it better, man.
No, honestly,
I posted a couple of it. So Bailey is a kayak angler from New York, and actually they I can't think of it offhand. He has a couple of, I'll look it up right now. Him and his buddies, they have a couple of really cool podcasts. One's called The Serious Angler. That's kind of their umbrella company. And then they have the Lure Lab as part of that. They have a kayak. So The Serious Angler is the main podcast, but they have other podcasts under it. Bailey participates in a lot of that. Now Bailey is out of New York, but he travels all across the U.S. competing. He's a great angler and a great guy. I've met Bailey a couple of times. I met him actually when we were at the Classic in Oklahoma. Trevor, Owen, and I had a great conversation with Bailey, and I still talk to him the odd time on Instagram. And we actually chatted briefly this week about his video, and I thanked him. I said, "Awesome, dude, awesome video, well timed." I shared his video, I reposted it, and he thanked me for that, and then we had a little conversation. This is so important. So, I'm not trying to get Bailey's not sharing that stuff. I know him well enough. He's not sharing that content to get likes or to get posts. He's doing it because he really feels strongly that we need to avoid some of that negative. So, but I really give him a follow. Him and his buddies, they do some great content. In fact, their podcasts, dude. If anyone goes on fishing trips, the Serious Angler Podcast Network is usually on the top of my list of guys to listen to, right up there with Dave Mercer and a couple others. So give Bailey a follow. Great content from him. But he hit it exactly what I was thinking when I think the algorithm sometimes can read my mind in a good way. And I saw the kayak cut in half, and I saw the bass boat, and I'm like, oh, come on. Literally this popped up right away in my feed, and I'm like, I think the algorithm was actually reading my mind and how annoyed I was, and Bailey hit it right on. And so I shared his post right away. So yeah, he's just a good dude, and he is speaking the truth, man, right there.
Yeah, no, obviously we think alike, and the algorithm caters to both of us equally and in the same way, because at the end of the day, sometimes we don't see enough of it, we don't hear enough of it, we don't promote enough of it, because we're unfortunately attracted to the clickbait. We want the shock and awe, we want to be entertained, and sometimes controversy entertains us.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, this is such an important thing, especially in an industry right now that I don't want to say is confused, misdirected, or anything like that.
No.
But at the end of the day, we need to support things that are positive. Support things like Christian. Yeah. Support things like Trevor, like Owen. Some of these young anglers, Avery Rose. There are so many young, youthful anglers that need the support, that carry the passion at a very young age, that we truly admire, and I get inspired by seeing it. When your son gets up, when Christian gets up and does these sessions, where they're talking to people, describing a bait, that, I just love it. And we will certainly do our best to adhere to what Bailey has advised us to be and strive to be. So, again, I couldn't have thought of anything that was more encapsulating than that. Bailey, thanks so much for sharing that. That was awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I think on that too, like, I think that it's so good that there are anglers out there who recognize the good in others, and I think some of us are just tired of the negativity, and there's so many good things to be positive. There's not a lot of negative, man. The negative is so small. Like, it is a percentage of a single percentage. There's so much positive to be proud of out there, right?
Amen.
One thing I'll end with is I had the pleasure of going up to Sir Sanford Fleming College with Trevor and his buddy Nolan Isaac last weekend. And so, dude, not a lot of fishing's been going on. We've been doing like everything else but fishing.
Yeah.
But it's all fishing related, but it's not actually lines in the water, man. So actually we did a tour of Fleming College. So Trevor it's on his short list. I'm not going to say he's going to attend there, but it's on his short list. He's applied to universities and colleges. He wants to follow in mom and dad's footsteps, and which is cool.
That's awesome.
But never mind him. When I was there was just a lot of great young high schoolers in the classrooms, going through the open house, talking to the instructors, talking to other students. And it, dude, just felt good. Felt good to see all these young people interested in not just fish and wildlife, like, heavy equipment, drilling, all the things that are part of our natural resources that are important, not just fish and wildlife. And so just and just a good vibe. Like when you walk through there and all the people from the programs are happy to see you and talk to you and share their experience with you. And yeah, it was great. It was great. And you know, and all the open houses, they're all like this. But going back to, you know, where Heather and I went to school at Fleming, and just to see and none of the instructors are there anymore that had me. They're all retired smartly. Yes. But some of the guys and girls who are teaching there now, they're people that I know because we all work. It's such a small world, right? So we all know of each other, and it was great to catch up with them. And then, but to hear the boys and some of the girls there talk about, ask the right questions, and yeah, they have stuff to learn, but they're so keen to learn it. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're in a good place, buddy. It felt good. Felt good seeing all those young people there. Really did.
Well, again, thanks for sharing that kind of positivity, that kind of warmth that you get when you hear stuff like this, because it is the next generation that is going to carry the flag. And we better be doing our best to support them and advise them and steer them in the right direction. And I like to say, to your point, Jay, there is enough of us, I think, out there doing that. I just hope that the message is getting to all of them. And by the sounds of it, it is. So thanks for all you do, Jay. Thanks for all that you are in our community and everything that you share with us. It means the world, bud.
You too, buddy. Thanks again. And hope we'll see you next week, man. See you next week.
You have yourself a great week, and hopefully we get out ice fishing sooner than later.
Imagine. I'll get the auger ready, buddy. The binders will be charged. Don't you worry.
Right on, dude. You take care. All the best, my friend.
See ya.
So that is the end of our show. I want to thank Lawrence and Jay for joining us. Unfortunately, Jim was unable to. He had some prior commitments that unfortunately took him away. So we will see him next Monday, as we hopefully will see you. It is the eve of Remembrance Day. So buy a poppy, wear it, and pass it on. Pass on the message that is so important to our vets, to our history, and to our future. At the end of the day, it's up to us. If we do not pass along this message to young anglers, to young Canadians, to new Canadians about the importance of Remembrance Day, it will be lost. It will be lost, unfortunately. So I challenge all of you. Happy Remembrance Day. We will see you on the flip side. Thanks so much for joining us. And as always, stay healthy. Love you all. Have yourselves a great week. Dave, take us away.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.